So we're going to take a look at an ArrayList example, very simple example here. So an ArrayList, of course, I talked about in the last video, which I know you watched. An ArrayList is simply an array with a little bit more function. And an ArrayList can only contain objects. I think I mentioned that before. So here I'm going to make an ArrayList that is going to contain student objects. So I defined a very simple student class. It has two instance variables, name and number. This is the constructor, of course. So students have obviously a name and they have some kind of ID number, and I have a toString method. That's it. So remember, a student just has a name and a number. So let me close this down and let's take a look at this other class. This is a tester class. And up in the top, I put the required ArrayList methods. Those ArrayList methods that you need to know about. And I'm not going to go through these because here they are in the comments, and you can print this out. It's underneath the video. And it's also on the quick reference sheet. You need to know about all of these ArrayList methods. So here are a few things very important. When you use ArrayLists, you have to include this import statement. You have to tell Java that I'm going to be using this package called utilities, util, dot asterisk. I mean, that means you're going to be using all of these items within this utilities package. You don't really need to know a whole lot about importing things in Java. You just need to know that you need this line of code when you use ArrayLists. So here I've named this class ArrayListStudent. I wrote this one method that will print out an ArrayList. If you pass in an ArrayList, it'll print out an ArrayList. So here's the system.print, just the angle bracket, and then I have a little for loop here. I'm going from I equals 0 to less than the size minus 1, and you'll see why I'm saying less than size minus 1 in a moment. I'm printing out, and you know that when you, the name of my ArrayList that I'm passing in here, I'm calling x. So x.get, remember get, copies an item out of the ArrayList. It doesn't remove it, it just copies it out, and then I'm printing a comma afterwards. So I'm going to print each item followed by a comma, except the last item, remember my for loop is only going for less than x.size minus 1, so the very last item, which is called x.size minus 1, I'm then printing out after this for loop with no comma after it, because I want my list to have commas in between the items and not at the end. Hopefully that makes sense. Anyway, so here in the main method, I declare an ArrayList, the name of my ArrayList. And again, the syntax for this is a little weird, but you got to know how to do this. So this says I'm making an ArrayList. The name of it I'm sorry, that's not right. It's an ArrayList of student objects. That you need to put this in those angle brackets, the greater than less than brackets. So this is an ArrayList of student objects. The name of it is AP-ComSci. Presumably it's a list of my AP-ComSci students. And it is a new ArrayList of student objects. And yes, you need these. The syntax is weird, I know. It's because it sort of evolved from earlier versions of Java, but you need these little parentheses at the end. And this is something you do need to memorize. ArrayList of some kind of object. This is the name of that ArrayList. It's a new ArrayList of student objects, and you need these parentheses. And I think I talked about this in the first video. I actually could say list student AP-ComSci equals new ArrayList. That's permitted only because an ArrayList is really a list. There's also a linked list, but really you don't need to know about this. Just don't get thrown off if you see it declared this way. It's fine, but I'm going to write it like that. Hopefully that's okay. So here I'm showing you how to add items to the ArrayList. I'm creating a new student S1. It's a new student Dylan. His number is 123. And then I'm showing that I can add item S1 to my ArrayList. I can also do these two lines here where I create an item, a student, and then I add it to the list. I can also do that in one line. I could just say AP-ComSci student.add new student Derek 456, and then I add another student, Jordy 789, and then here I'm running my PrintList method and I'm passing it my ArrayList, which is called AP-ComSci, and of course, don't be thrown off by this, I'm calling it AP-ComSci down here, but I'm passing that ArrayList up to here. Up in the method, I'm calling it x. And array lists, you pass them just the same as arrays. I'm really passing a copy of the pointer. So here, x is actually pointing to the same array list as AP-COMSI is pointing to down here. So up here, when I print the list, or actually if I change the array list, it would actually change this array list. It works the same way as arrays. So actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to run this guy, and let me compile and run it. And we'll take a look at the output, and you'll see it'll all make so much sense. You'll love it. So I think I might be off the screen there a little bit. So let me move this on here. Okay, yeah, so let's check out what's happening, and hopefully this will make total sense. So here I've added 3 items to my array list, Dylan, Derek, Jordy, and then I'm printing out the list. And notice when you add an item, it gets added to the end. So here I am printing out the list, and here's my list. Dylan, Derek, Jordy. Great. Then I'm adding an item. Remember, there's 2 versions of add. So I'm adding an item to position 2. Here's my new student, Matthew. And then I'm printing out the list again. Position 2, remember, you start counting at 0. So position 2, 0, 1, 2. Matthew got added, and Jordy got pushed to the right of the list. That's how add works. Here I am using the get method. I'm printing out, notice I put the get inside of a print statement. I'm printing out the result of getting item number 1. Item number 1, of course, start counting at 0. Item number 1 is Derek, so I'm printing out Derek. And then notice I print the list again, and Derek did not get removed. So again, get does not actually remove an item. It just returns a copy of the item. If I want to remove an item, I need to use remove, which I have below here. So I'm removing item 1, and then I'm printing that out, and of course that will print Derek again. That's the item that's getting removed. Remove returns the item that you're removing. And then if I print the list again, you can see that Derek is removed, and there it is again. And then finally, I'm using set. So set can be a little bit tricky. Here I am setting position 2 to a new student, and this is the new student. So let's check out position 2, and let's see. Position 2, where was I? I was right here, 0, 1, 2. So position 2 was Jordy, and I'm setting position 2 to Sarah. So underneath, I'm printing it out again. And set returns what was at that position. That's why when I print out this command right here, it returned what was there, and that's why it printed out Jordy. Jordy was there, and then I'm setting it to this new thing. So I'm going through this real quick, but you have a copy of this underneath the video. So check this out, play around with these basic ArrayList commands. You really need to know these thoroughly. So hopefully this makes sense to you, and that's the whole video.